Tuesday, November the 9th. Ginger drinks herself stupid on 1 glass of water. Fall of the wall. At last, some German history we can all enjoy. Ghana, undemocratic despot meets Jerry Rawlings. Please welcome the man who's gonna make you smile, Mr. Ian Lee.
Hello and welcome to the 11 o'clock show. Power to the people! Now, don't worry, it's not me spouting this dangerous revolutionary nonsense, it's the sun. Gaw, love a duck, the current bun says it might be time to think the unthinkable and get rid of the Queen. Still, Chris Evans is shagging the unshaggable, and so's Jerry Halliwell. So, maybe I'll give it a go. Apparently, 1 in 3 Sun readers would vote to get rid of the monarchy. The other 2/3 were prepared to let her stay, but only if she gets her tits out on page 3. It's an idea. But quite why they want to see Charles Nedwood over breakfast every morning, not quite sure. But anyway, the Queen's in Ghana at the moment bearing gifts. She gave the President's wife a wooden box made by Viscount Linley. What the hell is all this about? 100 years ago, we'd have been over there charging with Michael Caine on a gunboat, and now we're sending the Queen over with something her nephew knocked up in woodwork class. We had an empire! Now, obviously, I'm employed by Channel 4, which is known for seeing both sides of everything, preferably pierced, shaved and in close-up. So, So, I have to remain completely neutral. So I say this completely neutrally. Let's string them up and then spend the money we've saved on some giant dodgems to go that big wheel by the river. Now, friends, I risk my life when I say this. That's right, because this country still has the death penalty. A man can be hanged for arson in Her Majesty's dockyard. Not sure what that is. It's either setting fire to her ships or something Prince Edward got up to at public school. But look at France. They got rid of their royal family over 200 years ago. A nation whose monarchy once said, let them eat cake, now lets its farmers say, let them eat cack. But they've made... Think about it. But they have made 2 World Cup finals in recent years, and it's 2 more than us. Do I have to spell it out, brothers? Vive la Revolution! But please welcome our very own African Queen. It's the one, the only, Miss Daisy Donovan. Daisy, do you think... No, I didn't. Do you think the Queen should be visiting Africa?
Definitely, and I think the Africans have given us so much. They've given us Mbongo, they drink it in the jungle, Tight Fit, and the Ebola virus. It's brilliant.
Fantastic. Why don't you tell us what's coming up in tonight's show? OK,
will do. Tonight, I'll be going head-to-head with former Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd. You were brought up on a farm. Was it a picture book upbringing, or did you sometimes think, oh, God, I want to choke the chicken?
Yes. It was lovely. I mean, it was very good. Looking back on it, I was very happy.
And later on, we'll be talking with groovy fella Roland Rivron.
Now it's time for the headlines. And tonight's main stories. On Saturday, Jerry Halliwell performed her new single on Live and Kicking with sign language. Apparently she only learned to sign after a typing error on a record company memo, which insisted she learn to sing.
Sadly, she got the sign language wrong, and deaf viewers were told, I'm your angel for a toilet. One sign she should have learnt by now is this one, which means boyfriend.
Following the performance, the BBC was flooded with complaints from deaf viewers. Stop complaining, at least you can't bloody hear her!
Jerry and Chris have continued to deny their relationship is a publicity stunt and issued the following statement. Please give us some privacy. Tonight at the Ivy 8:15 Table 6, bring a flash.
As the House of Lords disbands, one hereditary member has already got himself a job as a river warden. He should be well qualified to oversee a stretch of water. He's a peer.
And finally, sport. With seats for the England game changing hands at £1,000, Scots fans scramble over Hadrian's Wall in search for tickets.
And those are today's headlines.
And tonight's big story is the 10th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Our correspondent Paul Garner has returned to Berlin to make this special report.
Tonight, the German people are celebrating the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's 10 years since that historic day when thousands of East Berliners made their way here in the early hours of the morning to rally for freedom. before laying out their towels and returning after breakfast. The world awoke to these amazing scenes as East Germans flooded into West Berlin, while ecstatic West Germans chiselled away at the wall, determined not to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to move into the souvenir business. The scenes of jubilation quickly turned to sadness as news filtered through to the woefully out-of-touch East Germans that in the Western world, moustaches were now only fashionable amongst motorcycle policemen and benders. Today, surprisingly, many East Germans appeared disillusioned with the outcome of the reunification. In a recent poll, 1 in 5 said they would even consider a return of the wall. One group I met this morning were following developments with a particular interest. Yesterday, those leaders instrumental in the fall of the wall, Gorbachev, Bush and Kohl, arrived in the city for the anniversary celebrations. In a symbolic act, they each signed a piece of the wall, leaving a permanent reminder of their feelings for the people of Berlin. So what now for this great city? The region once darkened by the shadow of the wall has changed beyond recognition. One former control post is now home to a second-hand car business, whose owners pride themselves on continuing a long Berlin tradition of picking out good runners. Undoubtedly, the next generation hold the key to the city's fate. Many of the youngsters I've spoken to in East Berlin would be appalled at any prospect of the wall returning, hence depriving them of the quality arts and music they've become accustomed to. This is Paul Garner for the 11 o'clock show in Berlin.
Good words. Good order. Good words in good order.
Not since the Second World War have the papers been so full of the Jerrys. Jerry Halliwell, Jerry Adams and, of course, Mungo Jerry. And joining that elite group today is Texan supermodel Jerry Hall.
She's in all today's papers discussing her divorce with Dartford rocker Mick Jagger. But is she telling the truth? Let's find out in our regular feature what the papers ought to say. In The Sun, Jerry claims,
I suppose it's been the perfect divorce, as Mick and I are still such good friends, and I'm very happy with the result.
when what she meant was...
I suppose it's been the perfect divorce. I've got 10 million quid and I don't have to wake up with a big lip as wrinkled nuts in my face.
The Mirror quotes Jerry's reason for the divorce.
He just behaved too badly too many times.
When what she meant to say was...
He behaved badly 8 times.
On the subject of their 15-year-old daughter, Jerry tells the Mail...
Mick has always said she can model, but only when she's not meant to be at school.
When what Mick meant was...
Oh, Jerry!
Now, Daisy, or should I say Mick, at the end of the day, Britain's great leaders have always been remembered for one thing. Churchill for his cigar, Callaghan for his pipe.
Nelson for his column.
But what about Douglas Hurd? Will he be remembered for his incisive grasp of foreign policy or his ice cream cone hair?
See what you think. I'm here with a Right Douglas Hurd. Right Honourable Douglas Hurd. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
You were brought up on a farm. Was it a picture book upbringing, or did you sometimes think, oh, God, I want to choke the chicken?
Yeah, yes, a bit of both.
Yeah.
It was very good. Looking back on it, was very happy.
Did you have animals? Did you feed the pony?
We certainly fed the pony, we certainly fed the chickens.
Yeah.
We did odd jobs.
And did you oil the horse's collar?
No, I didn't. There were farm workers who did that. We were the farmers' sons. We did a certain amount.
You
We
had
thoroughly
people
enjoyed it. We learned a certain amount.
Can I talk about the IRA incident?
Yes.
Because for our viewers, these Irishmen launched a mortar attack on Number 10 while you were in a cabinet meeting.
Yes, that's right.
And that must have been absolutely terrifying with, you know, mortar blowing everywhere, the windows blowing in. I mean, Lord Hurd, what was it like being blown by an Irishman?
It was very
Are you worried about being blown again?
No, not at all. No, it really wouldn't enter my mind.
John Maid has laid bare details of his time in office. Do you not think that everybody is just waiting for you to spill your beans over Margaret Thatcher?
So, yes, I mean, don't you think it's quite sensible to have the last word?
I think it would be a great idea. But I do think, in a way, that, you know, to Margaret Thatcher, the cabinet was like a chess set. You know, she was the Queen, and during her reign, you know, even as Foreign Secretary, you were to an extent a pawn. I mean, did you feel part of Margaret Thatcher's porn collection?
No, because the Queen can get taken on the chess set. You know, there's nothing immortal or invincible about the Queen.
During the 1990 leadership election, to start off with, it was you, Thatcher and Heseltine all banging away. And then Thatcher was spent. Weren't you?
Not me. I wasn't involved at the first stage. I was her supporter. John Major and I were the people who supported her, who signed her nomination.
But then when Thatcher was spent, you pulled out early and left John Major covered in glory.
That was beef.
What a friendly chat. It's been reported this week that cheeky General Pinochet is set to move from his Surrey hideaway. In the short term, he plans to move to the sunny south coast, and in the long term, to a Spanish prison. But is he too old to face trial? And should he be extradited at all? Well, who better to debate the case than Radio 1 DJ John Peel? John, thanks for joining us. What do you make of Pinochet's plans?
Well, I think I remember the first time that I actually met General Pinochet. It was back in the 1980s, as far as I remember. I think Annie Nightingale had organised a wine tasting tour of the Chilean regions, and, of course, Pinochet had a meet and greet for all the Radio 1 DJs, and the moment we got there, of course, Noel Edmonds pushed his way to the front, as he always did.
I expect he wanted to swap stories about guns tanks and stuff.
Well, as far as I remember, I think the main thing they were talking about was different torture techniques. I remember Pinochet was saying he invented these enormous pink sweatsuits which he'd tie up the people in, and then they'd go bumping around and falling over places, all terribly disorientated. And I think Noel Edmonds, remember, laughed out loud and said, what a super idea for a character. And then they looked at each other again and laughed in the most frightening way I think I've ever heard.
Now, John, did you come across evidence of mass murder? And I mean by Pinochet. We all know about Edmonds' past.
Well, I do remember one night, I was actually there and I heard these chilling screams coming out from the wine cellar, and I asked Pinochet what it was about, and he said actually he had one of his favourite bands, Spandau Ballet, and they were doing some kind of session down there, and I think Gary Kemp couldn't earth his guitar properly, and so Andy Peebles has always been a wizard around the circuit board. He had a go, but unfortunately he was terribly drunk and got the most enormous shock and actually blew his genitals clean off, and from that point onwards I think he was known as Janice Long, and...
Brilliant. Thanks a lot to John Peel.
I think it's well documented that after that point, John...
Yeah, thanks a lot, John Peel. Well, that's the end of part one. Coming up in part two, we'll be sampling some raw sex with Roland Rivron.
But before that, egged on by Philip, the Queen misjudges the mood of the Ghanaian people. We see her here, just after telling the one about the cannibal and the OXO cube.
See you after the break. Welcome back to the 11 o'clock show. Now, further embarrassment for the Queen as the Ghanaian people make their feelings for her clear. Maybe the Australians can take a leaf out of the Africans' book, because this is how you show respect.
Before we move on, time now for this important message. Since last week's declaration of love between Chris Evans and Geri Halliwell, the world's media has been awash with ginger-bashing jokes.
To put an end to these vile jibes, we're going to call an amnesty on Chris and Geri ginger jokes by revealing the following punchlines, thus rendering them obsolete.
This programme believes that red-haired people have been the target of abuse and discrimination for too long. We believe that all people, whether their hair is black, blonde or red, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
Furthermore, we should treat the romance of Mr Evans and Ms Halliwell with due consideration. It's always hard for love to prosper in the full glare of the media spotlight, and for people to add to this difficulty with innumerable shallow and ignorant comments about the couple's love life can only complicate matters.
We wish Mr Evans and Ms Halliwell a long and happy relationship, and it's our pleasure to present this commemorative snap of the happy couple together.
As ITV size up for an all-out blitz in the ratings war, the BBC says it's dropping docu-soaps in favour of quality programme. Well, who better to make sense of it all than a man whose name is synonymous with quality television? It's Roland Rivron. The craziness is starting already. Okay, here we go.
Of course, that would have been stupid. You two sitting in the one chair, me sitting in the chair.
Stupid, but a lot nicer for me. Now, Roland, it feels like you've been hanging around in our screens for years. But
Doesn't it?
How did you start out?
I started out, I ran a kebab and off-licence in Camberwick Green. Next to the police station.
All right.
It was Drew Barnum, Drew Cuthbert, Dibble, Grubb, me, then Windy Miller.
How did you make the move from that to French and Saunders show? And what was it like being the funniest thing on there?
Oh, not nice.
Oh, not nice. No, the fees were the funniest thing on there.
Oh, really?
No, basically, that show was Simon Brent, the other guy in Raw Sex, and myself, we were sex slaves to Dawn and Jennifer, bless them, the little sexy vixens that they are. Hence my apparel, the way I appeared, bruised, drunk, and always with my flies undone. That was just sexual abuse.
Now, imagine you're Greg Dyke, new boss of the BBC, and
Okay.
try your hand at these following hypothetical situations. See what happens.
Okay.
First one. ITV are showing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on the other side. You've got to come up with something that doesn't cost £1 million, but involves just as much tension.
Tension.
What do you do?
Oh, lordy lummox, there's a thing. What I'd do, I'd get all the coffee adverts, put them all together. There was a lot of tension in those, weren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Lot of drama.
On, off, will they, won't they? A lot of doing that, which obviously you're a fan of, aren't you?
No! It's Saturday afternoon. You've got no live football to broadcast.
Uh-huh.
What spot are you going to show in its place?
Or sport. Football's a sport.
No? A spot would be better.
It would be a lot better.
Yeah? In fact, we could show spots. We could have Anfield Uncovered. And
Do
we could
it.
just show naked men's arses, couldn't we?
Casualties ratings are falling because viewers are demanding better accidents.
Better accidents.
Yeah.
Good
What's
Lord.
the most entertaining accident you can imagine? A really
Personally,
good accident.
A really entertaining accident. Probably getting Sophia Loren pregnant. That would be a good accident. Sophia, I'm so sorry. You're up the duff. I couldn't believe that. There's me promising to do the pulling thing, and I didn't. No,
It's always the way.
No, I think filming old people falling over.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
OK, you've completely run out of money now. But There's
OK.
still 10 hours of the schedule to fill. You've got a camcorder.
Of course
what
I
do
have.
you do?
What do I do? I'm Greg Dyke. Where am I at the B?
Yeah?
OK. I head out to the Blue Peter Garden. Hopefully it's night time. Turn the camera on myself, put a bobble hat on, and run around screaming, just filming the upper part of my face, going, "I'm Greg Dyke. It's here somewhere." It's a sort of Blair Witch Dyke Greg thing.
Now, moving on to today's
I like
news,
it.
we'll have you back as Roland if we can. So, that's better. Now, some of the papers have suggested that Prince Charles, wants a referendum. If the royals lost the vote, who do you think could replace them?
Well, everyone's fascinated with dogs and vets and all that sort of stuff, aren't they? So maybe just use the corgis and the horses that the royals have. Just have them. Obviously, Princess Anne gets there in, by default.
OK.
OK, now, Chris Evans is in the news for dating Jerry Halliwell.
Love him.
You've dated a famous singer, Wendy James from Transvision Vamp. Have you got any advice for him?
Yes, dating a pop star, whatever you do, Chris, and I mean this as a friend, don't, whatever you do, shag her. I don't know what it is about pop stars, they go like rabbits. They really... Who's that guy in Simply Red?
Mick Hucknall.
10 times a night. He's not lying!
How
He's
do
not
you
lying!
know?
I was 5 of them!
OK, now, Roland, you're well known for appearing drunk on screen.
I can go and get drunk now if you want.
Well, I'll come with you in a minute. Hang on, let's get this finished. Now, you always say you're actually sober. If you ever think of retiring, we think we've got the perfect replacement. Have a look.
Good.
Judy Finnegan. Ladies and gentlemen, Roland Rivron.
Ah, bless you.
A report out today reveals that no one is buying tickets for the Millennium Dome. Bloody idiots. You got a ticket, Daisy?
No, Ian, I do not. The Dome is an eyesore, it's inaccessible, and it's a total waste of public money. Hope you don't have any.
Yeah, I've got 2.
Why?
Just reasons. And anyway, who does the British public agree with, me or her? Let's see, shall we?
Millennium Dome organisers have shocked the world today by announcing they've sold hardly any tickets. But this is due to bad advertising or because it sounds like the most rubbish day out ever. We've come here to London to find out. Have you got a ticket for the Millennium Dome?
No. No.
What would you like to see in the Dome? What would make you go?
I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it.
The Body Zone is going to have a live sex show with a couple stimulating the sex act. Would that encourage you to pop along?
Perhaps, maybe.
What, even though it's 2 blokes doing it?
Oh, maybe not then.
So to make the Dome more inviting to, say, people up north, do you think it would help if they had a burgle zone in the Dome?
A burgle zone? What advantage would that be?
We know they've got the spirit zone, the relaxation mind and spirit zone, the boy zone. A burgle zone would be where northerners could go in and there'd be like houses there and they could pretend to break in and steal videos.
And what are we going to learn from that?
Well, nothing, but it'd just be like a home from home, wouldn't it?
I see.
Peter Tatchell's insistence there is now a gay cruising zone where everyone is encouraged to have an anonymous gay encounter, as that's probably going to be the new sex of the millennium.
That's up to each individual, I think, you know.
Would you be encouraged to go in the gay cruising zone and get fondled up by a bender? maybe just holding hands with another bloke, just to see what it's like.
No.
Put your hand on his knee.
Oh, don't be so silly.
Now, as a celebration of Britishness, British men will compete against French men in the Dome in a sort of sports zone they're going to have in there. The test will be seeing who can piss the highest up against the wall, who can drink the most lager without being sick, who can withstand the biggest electric shock, and who's got the biggest cocks. Who do you think will win, the French or English?
English.
You've been with a lot of French and English men?
Well, when I was at school, I did, like, I went out with a French guy. Like,
How big was his cock?
Not that big.
So there we have it. The good people of Britain don't want to pay this for this. This has been Ian Lee, the 11 o'clock show, London. Now it's time for some late news.
A couple have caused a public outcry by making love in a Norwich park. The incident shocked onlookers, with one Norfolk resident claiming it was disgusting they weren't even related.
A policewoman has been awarded £30 compensation after breaking a fingernail during an arrest. The nail has been filed as evidence.
Robbie Williams has said he wants to be the next James Bond. What a coincidence. While he's looking to land 007's role, Gary Barlow's looking for odd jobs.
The Army has announced plans to recruit from Britain's prisons. This recruitment drive follows a successful pilot scheme last year. 3 tanks disappeared into a lock-up garage, got new plates, a respray and restored at a profit through loot.
A shop selling fireworks was gutted by fire this week. An eyewitness said, "Ooh," and "ah."
There's controversy over a new book that contains a new portrait of Princess Diana being offered champagne by pop star Prince. Complaining about the blatant inaccuracy of the picture, James Hewitt noted her tits are too small.
And that was the news just in.
As we saw earlier in the programme, today marks the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Let's cross over live now to Paul Garner in Berlin. Paul, 10 years on, are there still any feelings of animosity between East and West Berliners?
Sadly, Ian, there are. One elderly gentleman I met earlier today openly wept as he told me of the years of struggle he's had to endure to seek acceptance from West Berliners. But I wasn't really interested because the old sob was probably a Nazi 60 years ago and almost certainly killed some of our boys at Normandy.
Paul, you reported that 1 in 5 Berliners would genuinely be in favour of having another wall built. What possible good could come out of that?
Well, if we went there on holiday, we'd only have to see half of the buggers.
And finally, Paul, I gather that the anniversary party is in full swing right now. Any details on the celebrations?
Well, Ian, and we all know what a great sense of fun the crowds have, so no doubt it will be one hell of a night. The Scorpions and pissy lager. What could be better?
Paul Garner in Berlin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, yep, that's about it for tonight. Just time to take a peek at tomorrow night's guest, who I believe is currently hiding somewhere. That's right, Stuart Hall will be here.
But before we go, after many hours hunched over the Belfast negotiating table, Jerry Adams tries to casually shake loose a trapped testicle.
Good night.
Good night.